Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with me, your most notorious groupie, Allison Rouse, author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me. That's right, with these other books and everything of mine, from the books to my merchandise to Patreon to the cocktail of the day, you can get down by going down in that description. And on your way down, have a little foreplay. Hit that subscribe button, hit the share, and hit my bells. Because a lot of cool things are coming, like I said, for the awesome community here. Join us, be a part of it, because a lot of cool things coming for my subscribers, my Patreons, and because we just really do have an amazing community of men and women from all walks of life, just hanging out and having fun. So hang out and have fun with us, and I'm very, very thankful for every single one of you, and welcome to the new people. So thank you so much. I can never say that enough. All right? And today, I was going to do another one of my groupie comparison series, and wanted to compare a couple other, because the only groupies that we ever see in the public eye are from LA, so I wanted to compare Coral Shields and another one. But for Coral Shields, I couldn't find too much on her, and kind of want to do a deeper dive than I really had time to do, so we can kind of get more. She's alive, she's well, she's got a Facebook page, but didn't really see a whole lot on her time, how she got into the groupie scene, stuff like that. Like I said, I want to do a deeper dive and maybe do a more comprehensive one for just Coral herself. So I just decided to do this one because when I Googled the other girl, I found a lot more stuff and a lot more interesting stuff, even just from one article that we can talk about. And today we're going to have our help talking about it with our locals Roja, Project Porter. But I am mixing it with a little bullet bourbon because I love my bullet bourbon in Sophia. Because you know what goes in Sophia's head really enhances what comes out my mouth. So you know it's going to be fun. All right, everybody grab your Sophias, kick up your feet. Let's have a cocktail and rocktail, shall we? Cheers, big ears. Okay. So, today we are going to be talking about another one of the baby groupie scene girls. Came along with Rodney Bingenheimer's, that whole era, the Kim Valley that I was just talking about from that movie, Look Away, which kind of surprised me she wasn't in this movie because she was part of that scene. And she might have had her own story to add to that movie, which I think I would have been interested in hearing, because we only hear kind of one path when we Google Morgana Welch. Now, she was 16. Her mother was a fashion model. They were from Arizona, and she had moved to LA, didn't want to go to high school, moved out with a friend at 16, and lived close to the Hyatt House, where obviously Led Zeppelin. And when I looked at this article, it says she was there throwing Jimmy Page and Robert Plant into the pool at the Hyatt House and making a business proposal to Peter Grant. And I just thought, oh God. I don't even know Peter Grant, but I know Peter Grant well enough to know that he would have been like, yeah, shut up, go blow my guitar player. Pretty much. He wouldn't have listened to those girls. He would have feigned listening. But so in that kind of, the name of the article kind of caught me off guard. And they were like, Morgana Welch, a queen of LA. Well, how many groupie queens were there in LA? Every single one of them is touted as a queen. Why? Kind of confused with this. Because again, when I looked at Morgana Welch, it was again very limited to Peter Toole and Robert Plant, which she dated for about a year, which that's a pretty long time in rock and roll. That would have been one tour's worth. Like I said, that's a long time. And stuff like that. But what I didn't see was that she really kind of went out on the road, and I could have missed something, you know. But she kind of even tells her own story as she was very regional in LA. And I had a Scammy fan come over and tell me that I was regional. And I'm like, no, sweetie, I lived in 3 different states and traveled all over the world and was regularly in several different groupie scenes around the West Coast. But like I said, I couldn't find enough on Morgana to know if she did actually travel with Robert and stuff. But, you know, this article, it was like, oh, she said she was very different, her and her friend. They would cook for the band. Okay, we've heard that all before. We read tarot cards and shopped at our clothes at vintage stores, but our boots were the rock stars got them. We had our own style. Nothing new. Not right there. Because how many groupies from the 70s, 80s? I mean, I read tarot. There was somebody in the GTOs that read tarot. There was someone over here that read tarot. I'm sure that other groupies did in LA. That this was not different. I know we all like to peg ourselves as different, and I do say that me and the 80s ladies were different, but it was a different era. I don't mean we were different in that we were just so phenomenally special. Our era was phenomenally special. That's what I mean by different. And I know that the LA groupies have all been said that they were the cream of the crop, like they didn't get better than LA, but honestly, nobody's ever asked the musicians about that, have they? And would they say that their favorite groupies were Morgana, Welch, or Sable? Which one would they say? Because according to every article written, every groupie they've ever talked to from LA, including Morgana, is the queen of the LA scene. But in my mind, it's always going to be Sable Star. I think she kind of owned it because she did her own thing, and a couple people wouldn't have been there without her. Morgana, not so much as Lori, but I think that Sable was always was really the true queen of the LA scene. But she's like, oh, yeah, like I said, she thought she was so different being a tarot card reader and having her own style from the retro store and stuff like that. Just same old story. So I was not fascinated yet. And it does not take me a lot to get fascinated with groupie stories. It just takes me a lot to believe the hype. Really. So she talks about how they were so different, how she would feed the band and the road crew because they were always broke and starving. What tour were you hanging out with? Obviously, the Led Zeppelin tour was, because they were not broke and starving. They had money in per diems. But that was really nice of her to spend her money as a young girl who probably didn't have much and feed the road crew. That's cool. I'm not going to dig that. I should have probably put that in the wrong. I approached that incorrectly, I should say. But that's all good and well, but it was nothing different. They were getting that in every city. So if the people doing these interviews and doing these documentaries and stuff actually focused outside of LA, they would see that this kind of stuff isn't so special. It's what all of us groupies do for those rock stars. I used to cut the roadies' hair when I was in beauty college. Because my senior year in high school, I was in beauty college. I was in regular high school. I was working and hanging out with bands. So I had a full plate going on, and I was in beauty college, so I took my shears with me, and I would cut the hair for the roadies or some of the musicians, whoever wanted their haircut. Things that groupies do, this is normal. This does not make Morgana Welch superior to any of the rest of us. This is what we give of ourselves to the rock stars, to the musicians. So I didn't see anything extraordinary. I see it as kind and wonderful, and I think that's cool of her that she gave that part of herself to the bands and made sure that they were taken care of. But it's what we all do, so I didn't see anything special. But there was more that kind of caught my ear when she was talking. She says the word groupie, I didn't like to be called that because it was so demeaning. But you didn't mind owning it when you decided to make money off the word, did you? I mean, even Scammy owns the word groupie. and wears it with a badge of pride because we take the word groupie as a different thing. And we were, and God, I say we as me and Pamela in the same sentence. Fuck that bitch. Anyway. So, but at least the word groupie was owned, and it was owned for the right reasons in the right context. Because we were also taking care of the band and feeding them and cutting their hair. I don't care that you spent a night washing John Bottom's hair. I cut a lot of people's hair. We all did things like that. I can tell you groupies around the world in the 70s and 80s did things like that. And then another thing that all the 70s groupies think happened after them. That the groupie scene died. With scamming the bars, it was because security got a lot tighter, so the 80s ladies didn't have it as good as we did. For Morgana, her excuse was AIDS and... what was it? AIDS and something else. Oh, an ego. Like, we were only there for our ego. And it's like, no, honey. You just spent a whole interview patting yourself on the back and pumping up the fact that you did something the rest of us have all done too. Like, that's where the ego is. It wasn't in the rest of us. We, in the 80s, we didn't have our egos. Us ladies just owned our sexuality in a different way. The 80s was a time of Chippendales where women were going to see male strippers and getting even wilder than the men at female strip clubs. And women started going to female strip clubs. I mean, we owned our sexual power in our bodies outright and did not present ourselves as arm candy with the band. Because she does say it was their world. We were just a part of it. And let me tell you something about the 80s ladies, Morgana. It was our world. The rock stars were just a part of it. We flipped it. So don't you say that groupie died after you because you thought you were so spectacular. Oh, God, no. Groupies went to a whole different level in the 80s. And I'm not talking just about me and my friends. I'm talking about women all over the United States especially. And in other countries. That in the 80s, we owned it like no tomorrow. And we wore it with pride. We kicked in the doors. And we owned those boys. They were our arm candy. We were not theirs. So, if your form of groupiedom died, I'm okay with that. Because you guys were arm candy. And like I said, this is just... and people can say I have my ego. That's fine. That's fine. I probably do. In a few ways. But... I have been around rock and roll long enough to tell you what it's really like. To not paint some hippy-dippy tarot... dancing around a hotel room with the scarves on the lighting fairy tale. Because if you put those scarves on the lighting, they might catch on fire. We never did that. Miniskirt or some knickers might have landed on the hotel lamp when we were kicking them off, but that's about it. So that kind of bothers me that the 70s groupies all think that groupie died out after them. It really did actually die out after us because of culture and society, not because... well, kind of because of us 80s ladies, you couldn't do better than us. You just couldn't surpass us. So that was kind of bothered me too. But you know what bothered me, and I'm so sorry she went through this, that the girl Tyla that got her into the groupie scene that she moved out with when she was 16. Like, my mother never would have, she could not control me with the rock stars, but she never would have let me move out at 16. Oh, no. She got me out of the house the second I was 18, yes. But not at 16. So here's another gratuitous mother that's a fashion model that lets her daughter go, move out. At least my mom was keeping an eye on us. Me and my friends. I mean, but this is again part of the LA scene that is a repeated pattern with the baby groupies, with stuff like that. So again, I want people to stop pointing their lenses and their interviews at one tiny, tiny flick on the groupie map. Because, like I said, I'm so sorry she went to Las Vegas and Tyla screwed her over and they got arrested mistakenly for being sussy workers, sussies. And then Tyler probably actually was, even though I don't think Morgana was. I think Tyler was because she stayed with the guys who took advantage of him and SA'd him after they got out of jail in Vegas. So I'm sorry she went through that, but I'm glad she has climbed up from that. And but it just kind of bothers me that she holds herself in such high esteem that I was never a groupie. I was so much more than that. Because groupie is more than you are making it out to be. You want to demean the word groupie, you go ahead and do that. But don't do it for the rest of us. Don't act like being a groupie or being called a groupie, because it was not a degradation in my era. It was a compliment. So that bothers me. But then she makes money off that word when it's convenient. So those are the kind of things. And she's like, well, I wanted to be a recording engineer, which cool for that. But people chastise her in the recording schools. And so she's like, well, I just married a musician instead and spent time learning in the studio. Well, if you were such a great groupie, why did you have to marry a musician that I've never heard of to be in the studio? You could have just walked in with one of your friends to the studio and learned anyway. You don't have to marry him. But those 70s girls, and even Scammy said this in an interview, of course our goal was to marry the rockers. And we all know what I have to say about that. The rockers are the greatest guys. They are the most chivalrous, most respectful, kind, fun. Love these guys. They are my best friends. But they are the worst husbands. Don't want to marry them. And see, in the 80s, we called those kind of girls star. Yeah, we did. And we didn't feel the need to gain power by marrying a musician. We had our own. So that kind of bothered me because, like I said, there's a whole pattern to this whole LA groupie thing that is repeated. And so just, we're over it. It's dull. I don't think Morgana is a stupid woman. I think she's strong and intelligent, and she is beautiful. And this article said she owns her own businesses, although I'm not sure what they are. Good for her, because it takes a lot to do your own thing, so I respect that. And I respect that she played her own game, but she had, even as a 70s groupie, had to succumb to their rules. Even she said it, and she said, she didn't want to be degraded. She wanted to be more respected. Well, you can be a groupie and be completely respected, and I think us 80s ladies proved that. So, all right, guys. Like I said, I just don't, I don't buy into the whole LA brainwashed scene of the groupies of the 70s. I just don't buy into it. Because, like I said, they all say the same thing. I was the queen of the scene. The only one who does not say that is Sable Starr. Makes her the queen of the scene. The true LA queen. But like I said, good on Morgana Welch for doing her thing. She's a beautiful young girl. I respect that she gave so much of herself, like the rest of us did. But you were not the only one doing it. And I respect that she was a strong woman and got through and got out of Las Vegas the way she did. Because that's not easy to get through. So, not trying to diss her in that, but I just don't buy into the hype of LA. So, alright guys. Hope you liked my babble for today. Some of you will, some of you won't. But that's the risk I take. And you have to understand, as the 80s groupies, those girls were not existing in the media yet. So they had absolutely no influence. Nobody knew who they were. The bands that I knew, stuff like that, nobody knew who they were. So I don't mean this mean, it's just they were not the influence in my life all over Google like they are to a lot of people's now. So, and for me, like I said, it's just the same old song and dance. But, alright, there you guys go. Hope you enjoyed today's Cocktail Rocktail. And don't forget, I'm going to be doing a lot of cool stuff. And for those of you who are on my Instagram, I'm thinking about doing a makeup line. Maybe, maybe not. Everybody's doing it, but kind of got me thinking. So tell me what you think about it down below. I'll let you guys know what I'm going to be doing with it. But if I do, it's going to be part of giveaways. Because I'm going to be doing cool stuff. Because I just want to say thank you to everybody. Because if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have the cool community here. So I'm very appreciative of that, okay? I love you guys. All right. So everybody, don't forget to hit that subscribe, hit the share, hit my bells. We'll see you next time on Cocktails and Rocktails. Cheers, big ears.